We're live. Hey guys. Well, we just finished watching the final presidential debate. I can't believe it's over. Like, this is the last debate. It's kind of weird. The last
Seems
debate
like
we'll
it's been
watch.
100 years and a day and a half at the same time.
Exactly. I know. It's weird. Well, it doesn't seem like there were three, basically, right? Three.
Yeah,
big
three.
debates. This being the last. And I will say I thought this debate was, to me, the most interesting. I feel like it was the best moderator.
Yeah, Chris
He
Wallace.
was very directive. He didn't let them get off track as much. I feel like it really covered the political issues, and I think one of the things we have talked about in this series is you're a Republican, I'm a Democrat, and we've dealt with so many character issues between the two, and talked a lot about the character of Donald Trump, the character of Hillary Clinton. Tonight we really got into the nitty-gritty of politics, of what separates a Democrat and a Republican. So, I mean, how was it for you watching this, being a Republican, and, when he's talking about, repealing Obamacare or, lowering taxes, all that kind of stuff that's more like Republican platform. I mean, did you find yourself identifying with him at all, or?
I think with Donald Trump, and this isn't new, but I think that because there are so many pervasive issues with him, who he is as a person, that I start tuning out when he starts talking about policy, because
we just started drinking.
Talk. Because of who he is as a person, and because of, I think, the kind of destruction that he would cause this country, even tonight when he said that he would not accept the outcome of the election. I can't even take him seriously when it comes to economic issues. I do believe that he's very thin. So he'll go right into, we have to improve our trade deals and we're going to manufacture things in this country, but this country will never manufacture things here like we did in the past, largely because of the tech age. And we're not making widgets like we once did. We have robots picking up things and moving them. And so I think the issues are much more complex. So as a Republican, I have so many issues with Donald Trump that it's hard for me to even take him seriously.
Well, and there were so many aspects of this debate where I feel like he was talking the talk, but it's not stuff he's actually practiced. Like, he's saying that he wants to keep jobs here, and yet in his own personal business, he has not followed that.
Right.
There was a point at which he was talking about abortion she used the term scare tactics, and I have to agree. I mean, he was, being very descriptive about ripping a child out of a uterus a few days before. I mean, that, I don't think he's actually super pro-life.
Yeah.
He just seemed to be, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he understands the importance of his base. He wants to appeal to evangelical voters who are pro-life. So he brought up the, third trimester issue.
Yeah. Which, I mean, if you fact check, that is a very, very small number of people. And in most states, there are regulations. So that would not be a thing that would happen unless there was risk to the mother's life.
Yeah, and even there on the abortion issue, I thought in the vice presidential debate there was a very civil, there was a very informed argument that each of the candidates made. I thought Mike Pence made a brilliant argument for a pro-life position, and I thought that Tim Kaine made one as well. And you're right, this was rhetoric. It was scare tactics. It was using outlier incidents of abortion in order to scare people. And ultimately, 70% of Americans are pro-choice now. The idea of overturning Roe versus Wade. I don't like to kill things, and so I don't think we should execute people who are murderers. I don't think we should kill animals, for fun, torture animals for fun, and I don't think we should kill anything. But the majority of Americans are not in line with this idea of overturning Roe versus Wade.
Right. Well, I think you and I align on that in being pro-life personally, but not wanting to, adjudicate on others.
I thought Chris Wallace did do a really good job in trying to nail him down.
I did too.
And saying, do you want to see Roe versus Wade overturned?
What
and
does
Trump,
that actually mean?
Yeah, Trump went back and forth, and he would ask him again and ask him again.
Yeah. That was an interesting one where I feel like he was just... I feel like there was a lot of rhetoric from him tonight.
Yeah.
A whole lot.
Yeah.
Well, Who do you think won?
We'd love your questions too.
Yeah.
In terms of winning, I mean, the big headlines right now, we were watching it on a little bit of a delay, and so we're not really on top of what all the news networks are saying. But I will say this a second time. For a candidate for president of the United States to say that he's not really sure he would accept the outcome of an election based on nothing other than his wacky, outlandish conspiracy theories about rigged precincts, which are managed and run by both Democrats and Republicans
which are matching up with polls. I mean, you have numerous sources suggesting that Trump probably will not win.
Yeah.
So for him to say it's rigged, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. And I think, for me as an American and, as someone who, I do appreciate our system here, and I see the great right that we have to vote. That as a citizen we get to choose our government. You cannot take that for granted. I mean, that's what our country's built on. And for him to sort of slough that off is really problematic.
And this is what he does. And unfortunately, there are some remarkably ignorant people in this country, millions of them, that listen to him speak and think it's the burning bush. So you have this thing about Mosul. He talked about Mosul, the city in Iraq that we're taking over, and how stupid we are as Americans to broadcast it before it happens. And you have tens of millions of Americans nodding their heads thinking, yeah, man, we're so stupid. Forgetting the fact that we have the CIA, we have the Joint Chiefs of Staff, we have generals, we have the smartest intelligence in the world, not partisan Republicans or Democrats, that execute, and the Department of Justice, the Department of Defense, that are the ones executing these wars. Yeah. And for one person to stand up and say, all of them are stupid, all these generals, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the CIA, the Department of Defense, these massive institutions are all stupid.
Right.
And this is what he's doing with this election. He is saying that the mayors and the governors and all the institutions, Republican institutions that are running our elections across this country are all corrupt. Yeah. And only he has the answer, which is it's rigged. Yes. And you have idiots believing him.
Yeah, he's shitting on our electoral process. He's shitting on our, intelligence. I mean, no one is good. Yeah. And that is not a person you want running the country who thinks he knows better than everyone.
And I think it will be interesting in the days ahead because I ultimately believe that people are good. This is my kind of worldview on life, and I think that Democrats are good. I think that Republicans are good. Right. I think that most people are good. And I think you're going to see a sharp reaction, not obviously from Democrats, but from Republicans. Mike Pence said this on Sunday that we will accept it. His own campaign manager yesterday, Kellyanne Conway, said on CNN, we will accept the results of the election. Right. She said it again tonight.
Right. And yet he said, I'm going to keep it a surprise.
And it's sizzly, and it gives him news headlines, and it will have news headlines like crazy for the next few days.
Yeah. No, you don't want a surprise from your president. You want decorum.
Right. And you think of Al Gore. I mean, if anybody could have contested an election, it would have been Al Gore. He won the popular vote. With all those hanging chads. I don't know if you lived in Florida then, but I mean, that must have been insane. But we have a system. We do the best that we can. But when Al Gore graciously stood up and said, this goes against everything I've ever wanted, but for the sake of this country, for the sake of us moving on, I will accept this decision.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, that is patriotism.
Absolutely.
When you put your country above, and I don't see patriotism from Donald Trump. I see self-indulgence.
Yeah. He wins either way. He becomes president, or he starts his media company, Trump Television, where he will continue to spew out conspiracy theories to the thinnest minds out there that will accept them.
Which is a lot of people, scarily. Yeah. What else? They talked a lot about...
the nasty woman comment.
The nasty one. Well, we'll just dive into the nasty woman comment. Let's. That was. I mean, I feel like that was probably the quote of the night when Hillary was speaking, and I mean, both of them had been going back and forth and arguing policy, and I don't think, I mean, it was fair game. She wasn't saying anything inappropriate, and he said, under his breath, muttered, "She's a nasty woman."
Yeah. That's going to be on the air in pro-Hillary ads immediately. But Trump already has a huge issue with women for very good reason, and he should. He's been despicable to them for decades. But to sit there, it's uncivil beyond description.
It was gendered. It was a gendered insult. He didn't say person. He said woman. Yeah, I mean, to me, it was his,
allegation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Flat out.
Yeah, the women that have come out
fame-seeking
are lying. Yeah, they're fame-seeking. I mean, if the main demographic that he's trying to win is women, which since he hired Kellyanne Conway 2 months ago, that's what he's been trying to do. He can't help himself from insulting women.
No, he can't.
There's nothing he can do to keep himself, whether he's pointing at her, whether he's calling her nasty, he cannot prevent himself from the gross treatment of women that personifies who he is.
No, because it has been pervasive through his life, from everything. I mean, we keep getting these little sound bites, but this is pervasive. This has been a constant for him in the way he looks at women, objectifies women. He's talked about 30 years old is the age that you trade your women in. I mean, the guy's just disgusting. Just so disgusting.
There's some great comments in here. Okay. Someone's huge issue with women. When he said you're a puppet, he was so reactionary. The moderators that we watched maybe 5 minutes of the moderators, and they seemed to think that it was fairly even. I didn't think it was even. No. I thought that she was baiting him left and right. And he called her a puppet. Bigly, that's the new word, bigly. He kept saying bigly. Did you hear him?
Yeah,
that's
was
bigly.
Weird.
It's
that
bigly.
Was weird, bigly. And he continued to do that. Wrong. He continued to do that. And he was doing it at one point when she was telling people to go online and look at his track record with Iraq. Telling people to go Google, and he's saying wrong. And it's like, that's an objective, recorded thing. But yeah,
it's so.
Putin in Russia.
Oh, Russia!
What
Russia.
Russia's doing in Syria is amazing.
And China and India. Yeah. So
there was so much. There was so much. There was so much.
I know. We've got our peanut gallery reminding us, but yeah, I mean, so praising Putin. So again, he has nothing good to say about our intelligence in our country, our electoral system. He's shitting on all that, and he's praising Putin.
And all Chris Wallace was trying to ask was, will you renounce or say anything negative about Vladimir Putin?
But did you notice how he answered it? He said, I would denounce anybody doing that. He does not, he wants Putin in his back pocket.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
There is some kind of an alliance there. He's saying they're not friends, but there's something weird there.
Yeah.
And then he's citing China and India as having, these remarkable increases in their production or in their, in their dollar. But the thing is, you can't compare the US to these developing countries. I mean, both of which, I've been to both countries. We do not want to be China or India.
With respect to human rights and how, right?
Right. Yeah. With respect to lifestyle, with respect to government, with respect to, India still has a caste system. China is still, reeling from communism. And so to compare us to that increase, which has been, them climbing up from despair, is insane.
Yeah. There were so many issues. I mean, the Russia issue is remarkable. And he, again, I think it was sexist perhaps, but he continued to say, well, Vladimir Putin does not respect you. And I just sat there thinking, well, that's not an argument. Vladimir Putin is basically a criminal who is a thug, who is running Russia like a thug, and who just annexed a country, who used to work for the KGB. I mean, he is a thug in the minds of every one of our allies. And Donald Trump says to Hillary, he doesn't respect you. Yeah. And I would guess that he doesn't respect Hillary because she is, like Andrea Merkel, a strong woman who is many people think she's a hawk. She's very strong on national defense. And so that's like... It's like me and Putin don't like you.
Well, that's like you telling me, Kristen, Trump doesn't respect you. I would be like, okay. Oh, that's a bummer. Who cares? Putin doesn't respect you is a compliment. Exactly.
Yeah.
Super weird. What else?
Right.
Well, I mean, it looks like she's ahead between 6 and 12 points. Nationally, I mean, that equates to a landslide victory for her. There are states that are in play right now, like Arizona, like Utah. Texas is even close, which a Republican hasn't won. Texas, I think, lost Texas since, oh boy, I think it was in the 1960s. So Trump, in my view, is trying to pitch his new brand, which is a new alt-right Trump TV brand. And I think he was there tonight to say the most controversial thing that he could, which is he will not accept the election. When Hillary wins by a landslide, he will have the perfect reason to start a new movement that will prey on the most ignorant, smallest minds in this country. And he will say, this woman is not really our president, and he will try to build on the ignorance of people and make millions of dollars doing it, because you will have to pay, and there will be sold advertising on the new Trump movement.
But people will do it because they want, these alt-right people want a place to congregate. They're like roaches. You know, another thing that came out of the debate that I think is worth noting is, you know, the fact that when Obama came into office, our country really was in dire straits. I mean, if you remember that election and the context of the United States at that time, the financial issues, the economic issues we were having at the time, I remember thinking, you know, because I was very pro-Obama, and I remember thinking, like, this guy has his work cut out for him, and, you know, he's not going to be able to do much, and the small amount he's going to be able to do, you know, he's going to get blamed for. And I think when you step back out of the Obama administration, he has done a remarkable job of pulling our country out of a terrible recession. You know, and so it's funny that when he keeps saying you'll have more Obama, like she'll be another 4 years of Obama, like he's been a great president.
Yeah, it's that whole puzzle of not knowing how things could have been.
Yeah.
Right. So had Mitt Romney been elected, John McCain actually been elected, there's no logical way to know where we would be today.
Yeah.
But if you're a Republican, you're going to say it would have been so much better. But as a matter of fact, there's no way to know.
But it was a Republican that got us into them.
Absolutely. And I hate to say that, but it's true.
Right.
And secondly, we had the stock market going down to the Dow Jones going down to something like 6,500. It's at 18,000 today. Yeah. Gas is less than $3 a barrel. Yeah. Unemployment's at 5%. Yes. There's no way that somebody can argue with those numbers. Could it have been better? Possibly. But it's certainly not a disaster.
It's not. And so, I mean, I just feel like when he keeps saying you'll have more Obama, again, I feel like that is laced with some, I don't know, some otherism or racism. You know, like, what was so bad about Obama that we want to like?
Yeah, I had a discussion with someone today on Facebook about this, and one of his arguments, very Republican, a friend of mine actually, and he continued to say, to have more of the status quo, we need an outsider so that we have no more of the status quo. And I know there are exceptions, certainly in inner cities, and there are a lot of things that we can do better, but I don't look at the status quo as a horrible thing. If given the choice between the kind of potential recklessness, the unknown of a President Trump on foreign issues, on domestic issues, in so many areas, this is someone who is saying he will not accept this election, I think I would prefer status quo. Give me status quo. We've had enough crazy in the last 8 years. Let's just have some status quo.
I agree. I mean, and I've made no secret that I'm very pro Bernie. I wanted, I was hoping for Bernie. I was not a huge Hillary fan to begin with, but I did feel that tonight in this debate, she really showed her. We've got a dog. We've got a rogue dog at our feet. Who wants to play cocky.
You need to get the squirt bottle. It's ridiculous.
I feel like Hillary in this debate really showed her chops on foreign policy. Like, I feel like Mom came home and Mom was telling us what was up with, foreign policy. Like, she was very strong.
Yeah.
Tonight.
She just, she looked good. She was poised.
Our friend Chad would like to point out that her highlights were on point. He commented on her hair like 5 times.
Her color looked amazing tonight.
He really liked her hair color. So now people are. This is the point at which people get mad because we're discussing Hillary's appearance. But I liked her suit. Okay.
I brought it up.
life's going to get so boring in 3 weeks because Donald Trump's going to be kind of out of the picture. And his scowls tonight, he was scowling. He was wrong.
Yeah.
I can't think of him anymore without thinking of Alec Baldwin.
I know, they just become the same person now. It's so funny. What else? It's been interesting. I mean, outside of the debate, but just noteworthy this week, we've had a lot of Christian evangelical leaders sort of distance themselves from Trump. That has continued to trickle since that soundbite came out.
The tape on the bus.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I think we're really seeing a fracture in that marriage between Republicans and the religious right.
I think so. Christianity Today had a piece that. Did you read that?
I did.
Yeah, it was. It made me very happy. I wish it would have come out a year earlier.
Yeah.
But then you have the individuals like Jerry Falwell Jr. who just continue for so many of us, including you, to be kind of the bane of our faith.
And Pat Robertson. But I just, to me, I feel like these guys are like just crazy old grandpa, where everybody's like, Grandpa, please stop talking about, the Negroes. Like, they're so off that just everyone is just like, you're crazy, Grandpa. I think that they're outliers at this point. I think most Christians, at least that I know, are appalled and are saying, if this is if this is the evangelical Republican deal, I'm out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be based on age. Apparently, he censored an article in the Liberty newspaper. Because there's a student revolt kind of going on there.
There should be.
Yeah, and there is freedom of the press, but apparently one of the students wrote something, or a group of students wrote something. I don't know the exact story, but he stepped in from the very top and said, it's not going in. So he censored the free press of the student newspaper. Somebody says, I'm an optimist if I think Trump is going to be out of the spotlight in 3 weeks. That's a great question, actually.
Yeah.
And I think the question is going to be, if he loses, if she gets over 300 electoral votes and it's a landslide, whether he will be laughed at. That's, to me, the big question. I'd love to hear comments from anybody. If he loses in a landslide in 3 weeks, if she gets 300 electoral votes or more, and it is just a radical, lopsided, if he is embarrassed, if it's a blowout, will people kind of wake up and think that was an absolute nightmare?
So you are thinking that Trump supporters so far will have a moment of clarity and logic? I don't know. I don't think so. You know what I mean? Like, if they haven't yet, then him losing is not going to be the moment they're like, maybe he's...
Well, but okay, so let's just assume there are two types of Trump supporters. Okay, of all the people who will cast a ballot for Trump in 3 weeks, there are the people who are outspoken in their support of Donald Trump. They're on Facebook. They're saying, we want to make America great again. Then you have the closet supporters. None of us know who they are. I would guess right now, I have certain friends who are Republicans who will not say they're voting for Trump, but who might get into that booth and vote for Trump. And that's the demographic. And whether that split is 50-50, 80-20, I'm talking about that latter group.
You're right. You're right. Those people, the reluctant Trump supporters, the reluctant pro-life voters or, lifetime Republicans, those people will, I think, fall out in support of him. But I definitely think there is a large base of people for whom he has rallied xenophobia, fear, all that kind of stuff, and they will follow him wherever he goes, like the Pied Piper. But you're right. Some of those people will fall off. And
we'll never know. We'll never know if they voted for him, but I would guess many of them will jump on the...
Oh, I know. I for sure know people in my own life who are voting for a Supreme Court justice. They think that he's going to... But in their mind, they're going to vote for him because he'll put in a pro-life Supreme Court justice and Roe v. Wade. I personally think it's delusional, but I know people voting that way.
I could be just an eternal optimist and hoping that in 3 weeks, people just, the people who support Trump or somewhat supportive of Trump will wake up and the nation will think, what in the heck happened? What in the hell happened to us for a year and a half? What in the hell happened? Because let's face it, we saw McCain, and Obama go at it. It wasn't pretty in the debates. We saw Romney in the first debate. He was all over Obama. The third debate was, I thought they were going to start throwing punches. But there was respect. There was a degree of respect for each of them.
Yeah.
And we've seen that going back in my entire lifetime in these debates that aren't always pretty. But what is happening tonight, calling somebody nasty, calling a woman, you're a nasty woman. This is a low that sometimes I think I'm having a nightmare.
He wouldn't say it to a man.
He would not say that to a man. No, I agree. Well, here's what I think is going to happen, Paul. I think once he's not running for presidency, he is going to continue to ingratiate himself to this low common denominator base with even more xenophobia and even more racism. And what's going to happen is all these people we know that voted for him, I think, are going to have to live with themselves because they're going to watch him, Trump unbridled, because right now he can barely contain himself and he's got handlers everywhere.
Right.
And he can still not keep his shit together. So once he's not running for presidency, he doesn't have campaign managers, the guy's going to combust. He is an attention whore, and so when that alt-right base rallies around him, he's going to rise to the top of the alt-right, and by alt-right I mean, you know, the very far Republican, you know, kind of white supremacy. I think he's
2.0 white supremacy.
Yeah, I think he's going to rise to the top of that, and I think all these people who voted for him for the Supreme Court justice or whatever are going to have to live with their decision that they voted for a guy like that.
Yeah, and that's where I think my eternal optimism sinks in. And I know those people exist in rural areas, in fringe areas, but I'm wanting to think that the 40% that he has now will dwindle, and people will wake up. And I'm probably, again, just being overly optimistic. But
yeah, no, I mean, that's what I mean. I think they will wake up.
Oh, you do?
And they'll realize I walked into a booth and I voted for that guy.
Okay,
That's
but
what I mean.
But
Like,
aren't you
they're
saying
gonna
that some of
have
those
to-
people will continue to get on the Trump TV conspiracy theory bandwagon? And,
Yeah, for sure. I think there's two Trump voters. I think there's the reluctant party line voter,
The ones that are stoned.
and then there's the ones who are like, keep out the Mexican, the dirty Mexicans.
Like last night on CNN, they were interviewing a Trump supporter in Las Vegas, in Nevada, not in Las Vegas, and you know, there were a bunch of Trump supporters there, and I almost taped it and put it on social media, but this is a guy that was saying, well, Trump should get up there and say, well, heck yeah, I grabbed their PU, that word, and the interviewer, CNN interviewer, was saying, why would
Pagina?
Pagina? Why would you say that? And he said, well, you know, Trump tells it like it is, and that's what he does. And, you know, he just needs to get up there and says, you know, he's a man of power and women like it, and he should just grab him.
Yeah.
And those people exist.
Yeah. So do women who are just like, well, you know.
He didn't mean it.
Or, you know.
He's a man of power. And
Sexual man.
Just playing.
I've seen that.
Yeah. Locker room talk. Boys will be boys. Well, let's let a woman be president then.
A woman will be president
A
soon.
woman will be president soon. That's happening. Yeah, I mean, to me, there's no doubt that Hillary won this debate. I thought that she was more eloquent and articulate. I thought that she presented herself as more qualified for the job, more informed, more logical, and I thought, again, he looked like a blowhard idiot.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah.
No more debates, but an election in 20 days.
Well, didn't Donald Trump think it was like November 14th?
November 35th.
November 20th.
November 35th.
Everybody go out and vote for Trump, November 20th. Hillary voters
Yeah,
can
day
do it
sooner.
on the 8th.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining us. We will pop these up on our respective blogs, Raging at the Minivan and Paulo Sophia. And you can leave us comments there.
You got one more, Paul?
Yeah, we have this last one.
Oh,
Can I do that?
yes, do it.
All right.
Okay.
Because I want to try to be fair to
Yeah.
both sides, even though I sound like a total Democrat in these things, which I'm not. Someone says, talk about the Hillary supporters who blew up at NC Republican office. Crazies on the left, too. I bigly agree. And sure, absolutely. Those things happened.
There are crazy people who believe all kinds of. There's crazy everyone.
And so there were Democrats. It wasn't part of Hillary's campaign that were going to Trump rallies and trying to get thugs to punch him.
Yes, that is cuckoo.
But of course, the difference is that Donald Trump said, "I will pay. You know, beat the shit out of that guy. I'll pay the legal bills."
Yeah.
And so, but look, there are crazies on each side. But in my view, on the right, there are more militant.
Our friend just said there's a difference between it coming from the minions versus coming from the top and being sanctioned at the top. And I think what we saw in the case of the Hillary thing is that was some outlier minions, not someone on the actual platform saying, I'll pay the legal fees, kick them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, both sides play dirty. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Oh,
we
for
know
sure.
that. We know
Totally
that from
agree.
history.
Totally agree.
But this election and this candidate is unprecedented. There's never been anything like it. And I wrote today about just the false equivalencies going on.
So many.
Hillary is not perfect. She lied to the FBI. She lied to the American people. All of that's true. I mean, people on the left say it's true. But you have someone here who just tonight said he would not accept the legitimacy of an election.
When you really drill down and think about what he's saying when he says that, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
There could be a lot more, but we'll leave it at that.
All right. we can go all night. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Leave us your comments on your blogs.